let me gather my thoughts. I thought I had them together before I hit go live, but here we are. One, I'm sorry that my audio doesn't match my video. I think it's the iPad. I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. The other thing that I apologize for is when I hold books up, they're backwards. I've looked and I don't know how, there's no setting for me to mirror. So yeah, here we are. But I show you the book so that you can see which edition I'm using. In case you wanted to follow along in the book. Sometime this summer, Jesse is going to teach an Emerson class, kind of like a book study, and he chose 5 essays. And I decided, because Emerson's hard to read. Emerson is he's hard to read. So what I have volunteered to do, Jesse did not ask me to do this, I volunteered to do this. I'm reading the Emerson essays so that when it's time for the class, he can just give you a YouTube link and you can listen to me read the essays. I will warn you that because I'm reading the essays out loud, it's a thinking process for me, and so there will be some commentary. I'm not going to read them just straight. Although Emerson is, as I said, hard to read. So I don't know how much commentary you'll get. Sometimes it'll just be me being honest going, wait, I've lost the thread. So that is what we are doing. And today we are going to do Emerson's essay called Circles. I've done spiritual law. We're going to do circles. The other 3 are going to be the oversoul, compensation, and self-reliance. Those are the essays that I'm going to do. 5 Saturdays, and then I'll be done. And then I'm going to pick up Emma Curtis Hopkins' High Mysticism. I think it's important that there are audio copies of this. In this case, it's an audio video, because this work is so important and it's so good. And really, honestly, you shouldn't have to listen to a boring, straight reading of it. And trust me, you're not going to get a boring straight reading of anything that I do. I have been in Science of Mind for about 20 years. I turned up in 2005, so it's a little over 20 years. I also am a Science of Mind minister and have been since 2017. I've been a practitioner since 2010, so if you want my credential. I also have an undergraduate degree in anthropology from Auburn University. So, I'm not coming at this cold. I'm coming at this with all kinds of years of experience. So when I comment on things, that's what you're getting is you're getting that background. But I'm also going to tell you it is my opinion, and you can take it for exactly what it's worth. It's my opinion. All right. So Emerson's essays, Circles. This is essay 10 in this edition of the book. So, circles. The eye is the first circle. The horizon which it forms is the second. And throughout nature, this primary picture is repeated without end. It is the highest emblem in the cipher of the world. St. Augustine described the nature of God as a circle whose center is everywhere and its circumference is nowhere. And that quote has been attributed to a whole lot of people, not just St. Augustine and Emerson. We are all our lifetime reading the copious sense of this first of forms. One moral we have already deduced in considering the circular or compensatory character of every human action. Another analogy we shall now trace, that every action admits of being outdone. Our life is an apprenticeship to the truth that around every circle another can be drawn. Okay, come on. Walk with me here. Our life is an apprenticeship. I've never heard it described that way. Well, yeah, I have, because I've read Emerson before, but That's shocking in and of itself. Our life is an apprenticeship to the truth that around every circle another can be drawn. It does vaguely remind me of Narnia, further in and further up. The further in they went, the circles kept getting bigger, which doesn't make sense, but metaphysically makes every kind of sense. Further in and further up, the circles keep getting bigger. That there is no end in nature, but every end is a beginning. That there is always another dawn risen on mid-noon, and under every deep, a lower deep opens. This fact, as far as it symbolizes the moral fact of the unattainable, the flying perfect, around which the hands of humanity can never meet, at once the inspirer and the condemner of every success, may conveniently serve us to connect many illustrations of human power in every department. There are no fixtures in nature. There are no fixtures in nature. The universe is fluid and volatile. Permanence is but a word of degrees. Our globe, seen by God, is a transparent law, not a mass of facts. And the hits just keep coming. The law dissolves the fact and holds it fluid. Our culture is the predominance of an idea which draws after it all this train of cities and institutions. Let us rise into another idea. They will disappear. The Greek sculpture is all melted away as if it had been statues of ice. Here and there, a solitary figure or fragment remaining, as we see flecks and scrapes of snow left in cold dells and mountain clefts in June and July. For the genius that created it creates now somewhat else. The Greek letters last a little longer, but are already passing under the same sentence and tumbling into the inevitable pit which the creation of new thought opens for all that is old. The new continents are built out of the ruins of an old planet. The new races fed out of the decomposition of the foregoing. New arts destroy the old. See the investment of capital in aqueducts made useless by hydraulics. Fortifications by gunpowder, roads and canals by railways, sails by steam, steam by electricity. You admire this tower of granite weathering the hurts of so many ages, yet a little waving hand built this huge wall, and that which builds is better than that which is built. The hand that built can topple it down much faster. Better than the hand and nimbler was the invisible thought which wrought it. And thus ever behind the coarse effort is a fine cause, which, being narrowly seen, is itself the effect of a finer cause. Everything looks permanent until its secret is known. A rich estate appears to women and children a firm and lasting fact. To a merchant, one easily created out of any materials and easily lost. An orchard, good tillage, good ground, seem a fixture like a gold mine or a river to a citizen, but to a large farmer, not much more fixed than the state of the crop. Nature looks provokingly stable and secular, but it has a cause like all the rest. And when I once comprehend that, will these fields stretch so immovably wide, these leaves hang so individually considerable. Permanence is a word of degrees. Everything is medial. Moons are no more bounds to spiritual power than bat balls. What? Okay. Like, he says this really amazing line. Permanence is a word of degrees. And then he follows it up with this comment. Well, okay, everything is medial. Moons are no more bounds to spiritual power than bat balls. What? Okay. See, that's one of those places where I'm with him, and then he says something like, but we are talking about permanence here, and the language has changed. So I have no idea what bat balls are, but if I go back and look up at his time, I might understand it a little bit better. So, all right. The key to every person is their thought. Sturdy and divine. Hang on. Let's try that again. The key to every person is their thought. Sturdy and defying though they look, they have a helm which they obey, which is the idea after which all their facts are classified. They can only be reformed by showing them a new idea which commands their own. The life of humanity is a self-evolving circle, which, from a ring imperceptibly small, rushes on all sides outwards to new and larger circles, and that without end. A self-evolving circle. The extent to which this generation of circles, wheel without wheel, will go depends on the force of the truth of the individual soul. For it is the inert effort of each thought, having formed itself into a circular wave of circumference, as for instance an empire, rules of an art, a local usage, a religious rite, to heap itself on that ridge, to solidify and hem in the life. But if the soul is quick and strong, it bursts over that boundary on all sides and expands another orbit on the great deep, which also runs up into a high wave with an attempt again to stop and to bind. But the heart refuses to be imprisoned. In its first and narrowest pulse, it already tends outward with a vast force and to an immense and innumerable expansion. But if the soul is quick and strong, so every time we try and bind the soul into a circle, the soul goes, no, I don't think so. The heart refuses to be imprisoned. It's constantly pushing outward. So every time we've run up against some boundary and refuse to be bound, that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. The soul and the heart refuse to be bound. The soul and the heart refuse to be imprisoned. If we let them, they will take us so much further than we have gone. All right, back to Emerson. Every ultimate fact is only the first in a new series. Every general law, only a particular fact of some more general law presently to disclose itself. There is no outside, no enclosing wall, no circumference to us. The person finishes their story. How good, how final, how it puts a new face on all things. They fill the sky. Lo, on the other side rises also a person and draws a circle around the circle we had just pronounced the outline of the sphere. Then already is our first speaker, not person, but only a first speaker. Their only redress is forthwith to draw a circle outside their antagonist. And so people do by themselves. The result of today, which haunts the mind and cannot be escaped, will presently be abridged into a word, and a principle that seemed to explain nature will itself be included as one example of a bolder generation. In the thought of tomorrow, there is a power to upheave all thy creed, all the creeds, all the literatures of nature, of nations, and marshal thee to a heaven which no epic dream had yet depicted. Every person is not so much a work person in the world as they are a suggestion of that they should be. People walk as prophecies of the next age. Step by step, we scale this mysterious ladder. The steps are actions. The new prospect is power. Every several result is threatened and judged by that which follows. Every one seems to be contradicted by the new. It is only limited by the new. The new statement is always hated by the old, and to those dwelling in the old comes like an abyss of skepticism. Okay. But the eye soon gets wonted to it, for the eye and its effects are one cause. Then its innocency and benefit appear, and presently all its energy spent, it pales and dwindles before the revelation of the new hour. Fear not the new generalization. Does the fact look crass and material, threatening to degrade the theory of spirit? Resist it not. It goes to refine and rise thy theory of matter just as much. There are no fixtures to people if we appeal to consciousness. Every person supposes themselves not to be fully understood, and if there is any truth in them, if they rest at last on the divine soul, I see not how it can be otherwise. The last chamber, the last closet, they must feel was never opened. There is always a residuum, unknown, unanalyzable. That is, every person believes that they have a greater possibility. Our moods do not believe in each other. Today, I am full of thoughts and can write what I please. I see no reason why I should not have the same thought, the same power of expression tomorrow. What I write, whilst I write it, seems the most natural thing in the world. But yesterday I saw a dreary vacuity in this direction, in which now I see so much. And a month hence, I doubt not, I shall wonder who he was that wrote so many continuous pages. Alas, for this infirm faith, this will not strenuous, this vast ebb of a vast flow. I am God in nature, I am a weed by the wall. The continual effort to raise themselves above themselves, to work a pitch above their last height, betrays itself in a person's relations. We thirst for approbation, yet cannot forgive the approver. The sweet of nature is love, yet if I have a friend, I am tormented by my imperfections. The love of me accuses the other party. If they were high enough to slight me, then I could love them and rise by my affection to new heights. A person's growth is seen in the successive choirs of their friends. For every friend whom they lose for truth, they gain a better. Though, as I walked in the woods and mused on my friends, why should I play with them this game of idolatry? I know and see too well, when not voluntarily blind, the speedy limits of persons called high and worthy. Rich, noble, and great they are by the liberality of our speech, but truth is sad. O blessed spirit, whom I forsake for these, they are not thee. Every personal consideration that we allow costs us heavenly state. We sell the thrones of angels for a short and turbulent pleasure. Well, I know and see too well when not voluntarily blind. Okay. He's a bit morbid right now. How often must we learn this lesson? People cease to interest us when we find their limitations. Oh, Lord. The only sin is limitation. As soon as you once come up with a person's limitation, it is all over with them. Have they talents? Have they enterprises? Have they knowledge? It boots not. Infinitely alluring and attractive were they to you yesterday, a great hope, a sea to swim in. Now you have found their shores, found it a pond, and you care not if you ever see it again. You have found their shores. Oh. Each new step we take in thought reconciles 20 seemingly discordant facts as expressions of one law. Aristotle and Plato are reckoned with the respective heads of two schools. Let me try that again. Aristotle and Plato are reckoned the respective heads of two schools. A wise person will see that Aristotle Platonizes. By going one step further back in thought, discordant opinions are reconciled by being seen to be two extremes of one principle, and we can never go so far back as to preclude a still higher vision. That's worth thinking about. It's kind of one of those things where Jesse says, we talk about all of these laws, but really in the end, there's only one law. But it's kind of like with the Hindu pantheon. The Hindus recognize that there's only one God, but they also understand that there's no way that they can conceptualize all of God, so they name the aspects of God that they need to deal with. That's what it reminds me of. Beware when the great God lets loose a thinker on this planet, then all things are at risk. It is as when a conflagration has broken out in a great... That's a fire. When a fire. He uses a big word for fire. Ugh. Okay, sorry. Not sorry, really. That just... It's like, why are you using a $50 word where a 50-cent word would have made just as much sense? Okay? It is when a fire has broken out in a great city and no person knows where is safe or where it will end. There is not a piece of science, but its flank may be turned tomorrow. There is not any literary reputation, not the so-called eternal names of fame, that may not be revised and condemned. The very hopes of humanity, the thoughts of their heart, the religion of nations, the manners and morals of humanity are all at the mercy of a new generalization. Generalization is always a new influx of the divinity into mind. Hence the thrill that attends it. Valor consists in the power of self-recovery. so that a person cannot have their flank turned, cannot be outgeneraled, but put them where you will, they stand. This can only be by their preferring truth to their past apprehension of truth and their alert acceptance of it from whatever quarter. The intrepid conviction that their laws, their relations to society, their Christianity, their world, may at any time be superseded and decease. There are degrees in idealism. We learn first to play with it academically, as the magnet was once a toy. Then we see in the heyday of youth and poetry that it may be true, that it is true in gleams and fragments. Then its countenance waxes stern and grand, and we see that it must be true. Now it shows itself ethical and practical. We learn that God is in me, and that all things are shadows of God. The idealism of Berkeley is only a crude statement of the idealism of Jesus. And that, again, is a crude statement of the fact that all nature is in rapid flux of goodness, executing and organizing itself. Much more obviously in history and the state of the world at any one time directly dependent on the intellectual classification then existing in the minds of humanity. The things which are dear to people at this hour are so on account of the ideas which have emerged on their mental horizon and which cause the present order of things as a tree bears its apple. The new degree of culture would instantly revolutionize the entire system of human pursuits. Conversation is a game of circles. In conversation, we pluck up the termini which bound the common of silence on every side. The parties are not to be judged by the spirit they partake, or even express under this Pentecost. Tomorrow, they will have receded from this high water mark. Tomorrow, you will find them stooping under the old pack saddles. Yet, let us enjoy the cloven flame whilst it glows on our walls. When each new speaker strikes a new light, emancipates us from the oppression of the last speaker to oppress us with the greatness and exclusiveness of their own thought, then yields us to another Redeemer. We seem to recover our rights to become people. Oh, what truths, profound and executable, only in ages and orbs, are supposed in the announcement of every truth. In common hours, society sits cold and statuesque. We all stand waiting, empty, knowing, possibly, that we can be full, surrounded by mighty symbols, which are not symbols to us, but prose and trivial toys. Then cometh the god and converts the statues into fiery people, and by a flash of their eye burns up the veil which shrouded all things, and the meaning of the very furniture, of cup and saucer, of chair and clock and tester, is manifest. The facts which loomed so large in the fogs of yesterday, property, climate, breeding, personal beauty, and the like, have strangely changed their proportions. All that we reckoned settled shakes and rattles, and all literatures, cities, climates, religions leave their foundations and dance before our eyes. And yet here again see the swift circumscription. Good as is discourse, silence is better and shames it. The length of the discourse indicates the distance of thought betwixt the speaker and the hearer. If they were at a perfect understanding in any part, no words would be necessary thereon. If at one in all parts, no words would be suffered. Literature is a point outside of our hodinarial circle through which a new one may be described. The use of literature is to afford us a platform whence we may command a view of our present life, a purchase by which we may move it. We fill ourselves with ancient learning, install ourselves the best we can in Greek, in Punic, in Roman houses, only that we may wiselier see French, English, and American houses and modes of living. In like manner, we see literature best from the midst of a wild nature, or from the din of affairs, or from a high religion. The field cannot be well seen from within the field. The astronomer must have their diameter of Earth's orbit as a base to find the parallax of any star. Therefore, we value the poet. All the argument and all the wisdom is not in the encyclopedia or the treatise on metaphysics or the body of divinity, but in the sonnet or the play. In my daily work, I incline to repeat my old steps and do not believe in remedial force, in the power of change or reform, but some Petrarch or Aristo, filled with the new wine of their imagination, writes me an ode or a brisk romance, full of daring thought and action. They smite and arouse me with their shrill tones, break up my whole chain of habits, and I open my eye on my own possibilities. They clap wings to the sides of all the solid old lumber of the world, and I am capable once more of choosing a straight path in theory and practice. They clap wings to the sides of all the solid old lumber of the world, and I am capable once more of choosing a straight path in theory and practice. He's talking about poets here. Really interesting. We have the same need to command a view of the religion of the world. We can never see Christianity from the Catechism, from pastures, from a boat in the pond, from amidst the songs of the woodbirds. We possibly may. From amidst the songs of the woodbirds, we possibly may. Cleansed by the elemental light and wind, steeped in the sea of beautiful forms which the field offers us, we may chance to cast a right glance back upon biography. Christianity is rightly dear to the best of humanity. Yet was there never a young philosopher whose breeding had fallen into the Christian church, by whom the brave text of Paul's was not specially prized. Then shall also the Son be subjected unto him who put all things under him, that God may be all in all. That's in quotation marks, by the way, which is why I read it the way I read it. I would tell you that he's probably quoting a Bible quote here. He's just not telling us which one. Let the claims and virtues of persons be never so great, and welcome the instinct of humanity presses eagerly onwards to the impersonal and illimitable, and gladly arms itself against the dogmatism of bigots with this generous word out of the book itself. Gladly arm itself against the dogmatism of bigots. That is a heck of a phrase there. The natural world may be conceived of as a system of concentric circles, and we now and then detect in nature slight dislocations which apprise us that this surface on which we now stand is not fixed, but sliding. These manifold, tenacious qualities of this chemistry and vegetation, these metals and animals, which seem to stand there for their own sake, are means and methods only, are words of God, and as fugitive as other words. Has the naturalist or chemist learned their craft? Who has explored the gravity of atoms and the elective affinities? Who has not yet discerned the deeper law whereof this is only a partial or approximate statement, namely that like draws to like, and that the goods which belong to you gravitate to you and need not be pursued with pains and cost. Yet is that statement approximate also and not final. Omnipresence is a higher fact. Not through subtle subterranean channels need friend and fact be drawn to their counterpart. But rightly considered, these things proceed from an eternal generation of the soul. Cause and effect are two sides of one fact. The same law of eternal processes. Oh, wait, no, hang on. That's not the word that's there. Let's try that again. The same law of eternal procession ranges all that we call the virtues and extinguishes each in the light of a better. The great person will not be prudent in the popular sense. All their prudence will be so much deduction from their grandeur. But it behooves each to see when they sacrifice prudence to what God they devote it. If to ease and pleasure, they had better be prudent still. If to a great trust, they can well spare their mule and panniers, who has a winged chariot instead. Geoffrey draws on his boots to go through the woods, that his feet may be safer from the bite of snakes. Aaron never thinks of such a peril. In many years, neither is harmed by such an incident. Yet it seems to me that every precaution you take against such an evil, you put yourself into the power of that evil. Okay, I want to read that line again because one, I underlined it, and two, I have a big question mark by it. So it's something that bears thinking about. Yet it seems to me that every precaution you take against such an evil, you put yourself into the power of that evil. I suppose that the highest prudence is the lowest prudence. Is this too sudden a rushing from the center to the verge of our orbit? Think how many times we fall back into pitiful calculation before we take up our rest in the great sentiment, or make the verge of today the new center. Besides, your bravest sentiment is familiar to the humblest people. The poor and the low have their way of expressing the last facts of philosophy as well as you. Blessed be nothing, and the worse things are, the better they are proverbs which express the transcendentalism of common life. So I'm going to go back to that line that I had the question mark by. It's kind of one of those things of, he says, that every precaution you take against evil, you put yourself into the power of evil. It seems to me that he's talking about worry. We're constantly worrying what could go wrong, and we set ourselves up for all of the things that could go wrong. It is wise to take certain precautions, but it would seem that it would behoove us to think of all the things that could go right without dwelling on all the things that could go wrong. But I could be wrong. Back to Emerson. One person's justice is another's injustice. One person's beauty is another's ugliness. One person's wisdom is another's folly, as one beholds the same object from a higher point of view. One person thinks justice consists in paying debts, and has no measure in their abhorrence of another who is very remiss in this duty, and makes the creditor wait tediously. But that second person has their own way of looking at things, asks themselves which debt I must pay first, the debt to the rich or the debt to the poor, the debt of money or the debt of thought to humanity, of pure genius to nature. For you, O broker, there is no other principle but arithmetic. For me, commerce is of trivial import. Love, faith, truth of character, the aspiration of humanity, these are sacred. Nor can I detach one duty, like you, from all the other duties, and concentrate my forces mechanically on the payment of moneys. Let me live onward. You shall find that though slower, the progress of my character will liquidate all these debts without injustice to higher claims. If a person should dedicate themselves to the payment of notes, would not this be injustice? Owes they no debt but money, and are all claims on them to be postponed to a landlord's or a banker's? There is no virtue which is final. All are initial. The virtues of society are vices of the saint. The terror of reform is the discovery that we must cast away our virtues, or what we have always esteemed such, into the same pit that has consumed our grosser vices. Forgive his crimes, forgive his virtues too. Those smaller faults half converts to the right. A little right up in there. It is the highest power of divine moments that they abolish our contritions also. Our contritions. I accuse myself of sloth and unprofitableness by day, but when these waves of God flow into me, I no longer reckon lost time. I no longer poorly compute my possible achievement by what remains to me of the month of the or the year. For these moments confer a sort of omnipresence and omnipotence which asks nothing of duration, but sees that the energy of the mind is commiserate with the work that is done without time. And thus, O circular philosopher, I hear some reader exclaim, you have arrived at a fine poriism, at an equivalence and indifferency of all action, and would fain teach us that if we were true, forsooth, our crimes may be lively stones out of which we shall construct the temple of the true God. So that last sentence that I read, well, the last part of the sentence, our crimes may be lively stones out of which we shall construct the temple of the true God. I have a question mark by it. What the heck is he talking about? I get he's talking about where our focus goes. Like if we're focused on just the money, then we are wasting we're wasting our time. We're wasting our possibilities. We're wasting our potentials. Because we're so focused on this that we are not seeing that. Interesting. Back to Emerson. I am not careful to justify myself. I own I am gladdened by seeing the predominance of the saccharine principle throughout vegetable nature, and not less by beholding in morals that unrestrained inundation of the principle of good into every chink and hole that selfishness has left open. Yea, into selfishness and sin itself, so that no evil appear, nor hell itself without its extreme satisfactions. But lest I should mislead any when I have my own head and obey my whims, let me remind the reader that I am only an experimenter. Do not set the least value on what I do, or the least discredit on what I do not, as if I pretended to settle anything as true and false. I unsettle all things. No facts are to me sacred, none are profane. I simply experiment, an endless seeker with no past at my back. Now, did I not at the beginning of this say it's only my opinion? Emerson just said the same thing. It's only my opinion. I'm just trying this out. You should do the same thing. Try it out and see how it works for you. And we are back to Emerson. Yet this incessant movement and progression, which all things partake, could never become sensible to us, but by contrast to some principle of fixture and stability in the soul. Whilst the external generation of circles proceeds, the eternal generator abides. Oh, yikes. Oh, hang on. Let me try that sentence again. Whilst the eternal generation of circle proceeds, the eternal generator abides. It changes the way that sentence is read. That central life is somewhat superior to creation, superior to knowledge and thought, and contains all its circles. Forever it labors to create a life and thought as large and excellent as itself, but in vain. For that which is made instructs how to make a better. Thus there is no sleep, no pause, no preservation, but all things renew, germinate, and spring. Why should we import rags and relics into the new hour? Nature abhors the old, and old age seems the only disease. All others run into this one. We call it by many names: fever, intemperance, insanity, stupidity, and crime. They are all forms of old age. They are rest, conservatism, appropriation, inertia, not newness, not the way onward. We grizzle every day. I see no need of it. Whilst we converse with that which is above us, we do not grow old, but grow young. Infancy, youth, receptive, aspiring, with religious eyes, looking upward, counts itself nothing, and abandons itself to the instruction flowing from all sides. But the people of 70 assume to know all, throw up their hope, renounce aspiration, accept the actual for the necessary, and talk down to the young. Let them then become organs of the Holy Ghost. Let them be lovers. Let them behold truth, and their eyes are uplifted, their wrinkles smooth. They are perfumed again with hope and power. This old age ought not to creep on a human mind. In nature, every moment is new. The path is always swallowed and forgotten. The coming only is sacred. Nothing is secure but life, transition, the energizing spirit. No love can be bound by oath or covenant. No, hang on. Let me go back. Nothing is secure but life, transition, the energizing spirit. No love can be bound by oath or covenant to secure it against a higher love. No truth so sublime, but it may be trivial tomorrow in the light of new thoughts. People wish to be settled. Only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for them. Try that again. People wish to be settled. Only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for them. Life is a series of surprises. We do not guess today the mood, the pleasure, the power of tomorrow when we are building up our being. Of lower states, of acts of routine and sense, we can tell somewhat, but the masterpieces of God, the total growths and universal movements of the soul, they hide it. They are incalculable. I can know that truth is divine and helpful, but how it shall help me, I can have no guess. For so to be is the sole inlet of so to know. The new position of the advancing person has all the powers of the old, yet has them anew. Okay. It carries in its bosom all the energies of the past, yet is itself an exhalation of the morning. I cast away in this new moment all my once hoarded knowledge as vacant and vain. Now, for the first time, seem I to know anything rightly. The simplest words, we do not know what they mean except when we love and aspire. The difference between talents and character is adroitness to keep the old and trodden round, and the power and courage to make a new road to new and better goals. Character makes an overpowering present, a cheerful, determined hour which fortifies all the company by making them see that much is possible and excellent that was not thought of. Character dulls the impression of particular events. When we see the conqueror, we do not think much of any one battle or success. We see that we had exaggerated the difficulty. It was easy to them. The great person is not convulsible or tormentable. They are so much that events pass over them without much impression. People say sometimes, I see what I have overcome. See how cheerful I am. See how completely I have triumphed over these black events. Not if they still remind me of the black events they have not yet conquered. Is it conquest to be a gay and decorated sepulchre, or a halt-crazed widow hysterically laughing? True conquest is the causing of the black events to fade and disappear as an early cloud of insignificant result in a history so large and advancing. The one thing which we seek with insatiable desire is to forget ourselves, to be surprised out of our propriety, to lose our paternal memory, to do something without knowing how or why, in short, to draw a new circle. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. The way of life is wonderful. It is by abandonment. The great moments of history are the faculties of performance through the strength or ideas as the works of genius and religion. A person, said Oliver Cromwell, never rises so high as when they know not whither they are going. Okay, hear that again? Hear that again. A person, said Oliver Cromwell, never rises so high as when they know not whither they are going. So let's go back to where he says life is a surprise. It seems like he's saying that we do better when we don't know what's coming. We do better when we deal with what is rather than what we think it should be. That's a Joseph Campbell-ish quote. Dreams and drunkenness. The use of opium and alcohol are the semblance and counterfeit of this oracle genius, and hence their dangerous attraction for people. For the like reason, they ask the aid of wild passions, as in gaming and war, to ape in some manner these flames and generosities of the heart. Wow. That's it. Literally, we're done. And now I'm left with what did I just read? But the way it ended up, I'm kind of left with that Oliver Cromwell quote was, the person does better when they don't know where they're going. Life is wonderful. Life is full of surprises. If we do better when we deal with what is than we do when we deal with what we think it should be. And that's a whole lot of life. When we look around at life and we go, okay, well, this is what it is, and we can draw a new circle. We can draw a bigger circle, as opposed to dealing with what we think it should be. And when we deal with what we think it should be, we limit ourselves. I don't know. I am finding that reading these out loud, it makes me think about it in a different way. So interesting. I'm very visual, but it would appear that I have more auditory learning than I thought I did. So this is interesting. All right. That was Circles by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I definitely want to make sure that I get to listen to, if I don't get to take the Emerson class, if he chooses to teach it during the day, I definitely want to listen to that class, because that was interesting. All right. So that was Circles by Emerson from the Emerson Essays. I look forward to the class when Jesse gets around to it. All right, beloveds, I'm moving on into to the rest of my day. I will be back tomorrow with you around 8:45 to go back to A New Design for Living. And next week, on Saturday, we will do the Oversoul. So, all right, beloveds, have a very good afternoon. Make sure you take some time for yourself, and definitely contemplate Emerson, because Emerson is not easy, but Emerson shouldn't be easy, because Emerson wants us to think about things. All right. And so I'm going to go away and think about circles. Know that you are loved, beloveds, and